Okay, hello everyone, it's been a while, hasn't it? A few weeks ago, I made the infamous Hoaxes iceberg, and it has to be said that video did really well. I asked for 2,000 likes and you guys absolutely smashed it out of the park, so thank you so much for that. I said if I had 2,000 likes I would make a part 2, so here it is. This is the infamous Hoaxes iceberg part 2. Now it's not essential that you watch part 1 first, but I would advise it, so if you haven't already, go watch part 1. I'll always be here waiting for you when you come back. Either way, I'm really excited to get into this one because it's been such a long time since I've been able to make a video, and apologies for the facial hair in advance. It is Movember at the time of writing this. So without further ado, this is the infamous Hoaxes iceberg revisited. Up first today is Thomas Edison made a food machine. This was an April Fool's Day hoax from when Thomas Edison was around. Essentially, this hoax was that Thomas Edison had created a machine that would turn dirt into food. Apparently, this machine could make it into anything, whether it be fruit or wine or meat. It could make essentially anything. Here's the thing though, and this will be a theme running throughout this video, it did not exist. This thing was meant to solve world hunger, but of course it couldn't because it was merely an April Fool's Day prank. According to hoaxes.org, this is the second best April Fool's Day prank of all time, and this one, if you watch part 2, you would kind of be aware of the smell-o-vision, the idea that someone could cut up some onions or grind some coffee and they would put it into this machine and it would be transmitted into people's homes. That was fake, and so is this. This one was made by Kjell Stensen in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, somewhere in Scandinavia, and this hoax was that he said that there was a way before coloured television to see television in colour. He said that if a person was to hold up some tights or some stockings or a meshed material in front of the TV and kind of move it back and forth, you could see colour. Or at the very least, you could see the illusion of colour, but this was false. It was an April Fool's Day prank as well. Many people, however, fell for this ruse. We're heading back to 1955 now to talk about contrapolar energy, and here's a little tip: if you ever want to pull a ruse on someone, make sure it's got a sciencey name, just so no one would understand that it is a hoax. This was apparently developed in World War II and would counter energy, right? So if you had a light bulb with contrapolar energy and you switched it on, it would actually make things even darker. Or if you had a kettle and you put it on, the water would get really cold inside there with this contrapolar energy inside. So it was a really interesting and creative idea. The only thing is it didn't actually exist. It was all a prank. It was published in some magazine and some people thought it was real, but alas, it never was. This one is perhaps the best well thought through hoax, and this might be the one that was in the making for the longest time. Props to the guy for pulling this off because it is maybe even the largest scale prank that we have on this list today. This is the Mount Edgecumbe prank. So Mount Edgecumbe, if I am pronouncing that right, is a volcano in Alaska. And in 1974, a man by the name of Oliver Bicker, also known as Porky, probably because of all the porcupines he told, he committed the prank of, the century. He lit 70 old tires at the top of the volcano to make it seem as though it was going to erupt, and people nearby saw it and they thought, holy shit, that thing is gonna blow. At the rim of the volcano, he spray painted Happy April Fools, and he actually said since that this thing took 4 years to pull off. He had been planning this one for 4 years, which is like very fair enough. How do you carry 70 tires? That would have taken a long time if it's just yourself. It often ranks on one of the top 10 pranks of all time. Obviously no one got hurt, people were just a little bit scared that the volcano was going to erupt, and that is some real dedication to the holiday. Quick one here, retro breeding the woolly mammoth. So this story dates back to 1984, and the prank was that someone said that the Soviet Union were planning to retro breed, which means like kind of bring back to life, the woolly mammoth. They were going to get some woolly mammoth DNA and put it inside Siberian elephants to retro breed the mammoth and bring it back, but it goes without saying that this did not happen because A, it is extremely dangerous, and B, it was a prank. The media did fall for the prank, but it goes without saying that this would have been a horrible idea if it did happen, and it just didn't. It was just a prank at the end of it. It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank, bro. This one is really funny, and props to the people that pulled this off. So in 2014, King's College Choir thought it would be funny to tell everyone that they had given their choir boys that they didn't need them anymore, and they had given choir men helium to make them sing higher. this is really funny. Like, just seeing the videos of the kids there with like a balloon, and then they talk like this. It's really funny. The King's College Choir is perhaps the most famous in the world, and it comes from Old Blighty, so of course we all know them, right? They sing all the Christmas carols at Christmas time, and it's just interesting to see because they've always been known for having falsetto singers. So what if you didn't? You would just give some old blokes some helium. It wasn't true. They never did this. They always do want their falsetto singers, but that was the prank that they had, I guess, not needed them anymore and just gave other people helium to sing their songs. And we're staying in the UK for this next one, and it's also really funny in my opinion. This one is definitely, people got angry. People got seriously annoyed with this. But in the last video, which you should watch if you haven't already, people said that there was this rumor that Big Ben was going to go digital because people couldn't read Roman numerals. So they were going to make it an analog clock and say, like, instead of, I don't know, V, it would be 5 and it would just be digitized, right? So instead of that, there was this other rumor a couple years back that because of the immigration inside London, because London is a real melting pot, they were going to change the name of Big Ben to make it more representative, if I can say that, of London as a whole. And they were going to change the name from Big Ben to Massive Mohammed, and people lost their shit. This wasn't even an April Fool's Day prank. This was just someone thinking it would be funny to make a little article saying this. It wasn't true at all, and it spread. It went around social media, and everyone went berserk. In the end, it fooled a bunch of people. The Great Moon Hoax. That's right, baby. We're talking about the biggest hoax of all, the moon landings. I mean, no, we're not. We're actually going to talk about this hoax that was posted in the American Sun. This one dates back to the 1830s, and it was that they found life on the moon. Quite ironic that the Sun is posting about the moon, but I mean, who even cares? Like, it's not the piece of shit British Sun, it's the American Sun, which I believe has since gone out of business. These articles said that they had found life and even civilization on the moon, and of course back in 1830 no one really knew what was on the moon. The species that they said lived on there were man bats, half man and half bat, and despite the fact that this was clearly a rip-off of Edgar Allan Poe's work, this was actually very successful for the newspaper, and some think that this is the reason why the American Sun began to grow in popularity. Before, I believe it is now discontinued, I think it died, but at the time it was very popular, and it can attribute this story to that. The Cottingley Fairies, this is a story that I ran into before, and if I'm not mistaken, this is actually really popular. This must top the charts of hoaxes all the time. Long story short, in 1917 and also multiple times throughout the 1900s, people believed that fairies existed because of these photos taken by Elsie Wright and Frances Griffiths. These two are cousins. Elsie at the time was 16 and Frances was 9, and for the majority of their lives they kept this secret. They kept the truth secret that these pictures were hoaxes. Multiple times throughout their lives, these pictures resurfaced and gained popularity. People were asking them, are these real? Are these real? And they always said yes until the end of their lives. In the early 1980s, the cousins admitted that the photos were fake. They were actually cardboard cutouts, according to Frances. But this is where it gets interesting, because Frances says that the fifth and final photo was real. I think it would be very easy to dismiss this as fake, but I think she probably wanted to preserve some thought of fairies for younger children and stuff, saying these are real. The camera used to take these pictures has since been seized, with the cousins dying in 1986 and 1988. This one is borderline fraud, okay? This is not really as much of a hoax as it is literally fraud. Our First Time, this one was very popular when it had surfaced, and basically these 18-year-olds Mike and Diane made a public announcement saying that they were going to lose their virginity to each other and put it online for the world to see. And this is back in the early days of the internet. Everyone wanted to see it for some reason. This was one of the biggest things at the dawn of the internet. The event would be broadcast live on ourfirsttime.com so that visitors could share the experience. but over time some people started to believe that this might be a hoax. For one, Mike and Diane seemed to be over the age of 18, and also people thought that they might have been actors, which they were. The enterprise fizzled when IEG backed out after the producer Ken Tipton revealed that his plan was to make money by charging the users $5 each for age verification, and then it would come out that the two would abstain on the day, and so that everyone would lose their $5, Ken would be rich, and the two never had to do it online. However, people pulled out. I don't think it ever happened. He never got the $5 from everyone, so yeah. Once again, if you were to have watched part 1 of this video, you would know that I talked about P.T. Barnum, and long story short, he wasn't as good of a guy as The Greatest Showman might make him out to be. He was actually kind of a dick, and he pulled hoaxes like a lot, and Joyce Heth was his human hoax. Basically, he told everyone that this African-American woman was the 161-year-old wet nurse of George Washington, which is completely bonkers because you cannot live to 161 years old, and you would know this, People back then might have not. She obviously wasn't, and P.T. Barnum was called out for this after she had died because he had set up a public autopsy charging 50 cents for people to go and see it. The doctor then performed the autopsy and said, "She is not 161 years old." And everyone got mad, and he said, "Oh, this isn't her, this is someone else." He was lying yet again. This was the corpse of Heth, and it's a horrible way to treat someone, especially the deceased, and I don't think I have anything else to say for that one. This one is kind of fun actually. This one comes straight from the BBC, and in 1957 on April Fool's Day they said that they had found evidence of a spaghetti tree. Now, here's the thing, right? If you know the BBC, they are known for being the most trustworthy news broadcasters in the United Kingdom. They are meant to be as impartial as possible, so this kind of thing would not really fly today. I don't think that April Fool's pranks are really what they're known for, but they really pulled it off in 1957 because, you see, at the time, a lot of people believed this to be true. I apologise if I spoke really fast back then, I do that sometimes. Basically, a lot of people didn't know what spaghetti was back in 1957, it wasn't as accessible to us as it is today. I can go down to the supermarket and get it for 40p. Back in 1957, a lot of people did not have access to spaghetti. A lot of people had never had a spaghetti and meatballs, at least not in the UK. And so a lot of people thought that a spaghetti tree could be possible. Of course, now we know that it could not be. A lot of people contacted the BBC asking, how do I make my own spaghetti tree at home? And I mean, you can't, but people didn't know that back then. And this was the biggest prank pulled by a reputable news source apparently in history, so that is kind of a cool story. In 1993, Marisa Tomei won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in the movie My Cousin Vinny. Many years later, in 2017, there was a mistake at the awards and La La Land was accidentally given Best Picture. They won this instead of Moonlight, and some people wondered, for some reason, I don't know why, that Marisa Tomei accidentally had the same thing happen to her. She won it instead of another actress. This is false. She apparently was meant to win. I don't know who started this hoax, but it would be funny if you're not Marisa. The theory was that Jack Palance, the guy that was reading out the award that night, was either too drunk or couldn't read the writing or this or that. This is false. He was not looking at the teleprompter, nor was he drunk at the time, nor did he stutter. He was intent on saying Marisa Tomei's name, and that he did. So she fair and squarely won the award. I've spoken about this one multiple times before in the past. This is the concept of Mariana's Web, which, if you know Mariana's Trench, it's the deepest point in the ocean. Mariana's Web is meant to be the deepest part of the internet. Apparently this does not exist. Apparently it's just deep web, but I mean, again, I really don't know anything about the deep web, so this could be false. Apparently it is false. This should, in theory, just be a hoax. Okay, things just got real fast, but please do remember that this is a hoax. This is not real. So, hi Walter, I got a new girlfriend. Have you ever seen this video? If you haven't, it is one crazy ride. Basically, it's this video by a man who talks about all these things that he's done. He's talking to his mate Walter, and he's talking about all these things he's done with his girlfriend. He went to the mall with her, he did some shopping, this and that and this and that. And then he says he'll show her, and he then takes the camera and he goes into this room, and it's revealed that he had been stalking her. He wasn't actually going out with her, and she was in his basement, I would assume, and she's screaming for help. Here's the thing that makes this kind of creepy, is that the video was uploaded a long time before it actually surfaced to being quite popular, and so a lot of people thought that this was a real video, and then to make matters worse, it was linked to this disappearance of a real girl. Some people thought the woman in the video was a woman that in real life went missing. Her name was Kayla Berg, and I believe she went missing around a month before the video came out. The authorities then got involved, and it was a real mess. The only thing is that this is fake. I think it's an extraordinary video because it is fake. It's a real twist. I don't really know what they were going for, but it is an extraordinary video. It was up for 7 years before gaining traction, and since then Kayla Berg still has not been found. I would just be interested to know the intent behind it. I mean, it's a real twist, but I don't know, like, they never really built off it or anything, I don't think. And yeah, unfortunately Kayla Berg has not been found to this day. And I don't think I have too much more to add. That's really the basics about Hi Walter, I've Got a New Girlfriend. So that one was quite heavy, so we need to balance out with something a little bit more light-hearted and fun. Hercules the horse-sized dog is up next, and this one is quite fun because apparently the biggest dog in the world is actually the size of a horse. Here's the thing though, right? Although in the hoax the dog's name was Hercules and it was an English Mastiff, the dog actually exists in real life. It's just not as big as people said. It's not as big as a horse. Here's the picture of Hercules. This is the real one, so it really is just a case of mistaken identity. Apparently its paws are the size of softballs, and this is owned by a powerlifter, which is kind of funny, I guess. You know what they say about big men? Big dogs. Okay, this next one is my favourite in the entire list. This one's so good, right? So this was carried out by Theodore Hook in 1809. Now, Hook is actually on Wikipedia, and you would think that he would be some sort of maybe general or an author or an actor or someone famous for a actual thing back in 1809. This man is on Wikipedia for being a prankster. Alright, this dude is a prank legend, and he made his bet with Sam Beasley that he could transform any house in London into the most talked about address in a mere week. Give him 1 week and he will take any house and he will transform it into the most talked about house in London. Samuel took the bet, and Hook did what he did best. He sent thousands of letters round to everyone, and the day came, right? At 5 AM on the 27th of November 1809, a Mrs. Tottenham, who lived at 54 Berners Street, was woken up to a chimney sweep who had claimed he had been requested to clean the chimney but was turned away by the maid, who said that their chimney was fine. He was followed by another chimney sweep, and then another, and then another, and then another, and in total 12 chimney sweeps showed up to the address, after which fleets of unneeded coal carts were also brought to the same address. Then cake makers delivering wedding cakes. Then doctors and vicars who were told that someone was dying at the address came. Fishmongers and shoemakers were the next to arrive to the address, and even dignitaries, right? People including the Governor of the Bank of England, the Duke of York, and the Archbishop of Canterbury. They all came round to 54 Berners Street that day. I don't know how he got the Archbishop to come down, but he did. Finally, the Lord Mayor of London arrived. He got the Mayor of London to come down to this random house just because he wrote him a nice letter, and the narrow streets soon became congested with all of these tradesmen and onlookers trying to find out what was going on. Deliveries and visits carried on until the evening, and Beasley and Hook went onto a roof nearby just to watch the madness unfold. Unfold, almost like some sort of deprived video game where you cause all this like traffic accidents and then people keep on crashing into the accident, making it worse. They were just perched up all day watching this chaos unfold, and then Beasley had to pay up. He lost the bet after all, right? He paid Hook the equivalent of $87 in today's currency. $87 to completely ruin a day of London's history. London could not do anything that day because the streets were just completely jam-packed, and yeah, he ruined an entire day's productivity just for £87. Giant camel spiders in Iraq. This hoax dates back to 2004, and it was thought that Iraq was home to camel spiders, giant ones at that. It was said that they were venomous, could run up to 25 miles an hour, could jump 4 to 6 feet, and could eat the stomachs of camels, hence their name. So the reason people thought this was because it was mass emailed around. It was a hoax, but, you know, emailing back in the day, people didn't really know that you could email lies to each other, so they just took it as truth. It was false. Easy as. This one's quite funny too, but I literally cannot talk about it for more than 10 seconds because it's just the easiest prank in the world. Burger King said that they had made a left-handed Whopper. Now, the thing is, and you might think this already, a Whopper doesn't have a hand to eat it. You could eat a Whopper with a left hand if you want. There is no such thing as a right-handed Whopper or a left-handed Whopper. It's just a Whopper, so there you have it. Hunting for Bambi is a series of hoax videos published in the summer of 2003 that was centered on a fictional competition for hunters to, I guess, hunt down women. They would hunt down these women in the deserts of Las Vegas with their paintball guns. It was created by Florida resident Michael Burdick. Hunting for Bambi drew significant controversy and media coverage due to both its perceived misogyny and to Burdick's repeated public statements that this was not a hoax. However, he had to soon retract these statements when faced with the possibility of prosecution. The premise is that these hunters would be hunting for Bambis, which were the women, and they would pay $5,000 to $10,000 for the privilege of shooting these women, who were given $2,500 if they avoided getting hit and $1,000 if eventually they did get hit. The videos were done in the style of a reality show, and here's to say that they were entirely staged. Both the hunts and the paintball hits were completely planned in advance, and the hunters were all hired by Burdick himself, so this one is fake, just like the rest of them. This one is a bit more than a hoax, but according to Lady Elizabeth Hope, she had visited Charles Darwin, the guy that created evolutionism, shortly before his death. And as far as I know, this is actually true. She did visit Darwin before his death, but what she said afterwards is not true. She said that he had thoughts that his theory of evolution was false, that he had been feeding the public a falsehood. He never had any doubts, not really, but she said that he had been thinking of saying, you know, maybe I was wrong. This is a hoax, but it's also more than that. It's more of a lie, to be honest. Like, I know hoaxes are lies, but this is straight up just like, no. I don't really think I have anything else to say about that one. This one might be the most ridiculous of all, but the reason why people fell for it is actually very fascinating. So prepare yourself. Lenin was a mushroom. If you don't know Lenin, he was the first and founding member of the government of Soviet Russia. The story goes that he frequently used psychedelic mushrooms. So many in fact that it was said that he was turned into a mushroom. You know what they say, you are what you eat, but of course you're not, because you can't just turn into ice cream because you like ice cream. See, this hoax was broadcast in 1991, and you would think that because of this, people would say that it was false, it was a falsehood. The timing actually has a lot to do with the success of this hoax, because at the time, I mean, throughout the Soviets' history, censorship was at an all-time high. Everyone would believe everything that the newspaper said, and if the newspaper said that Lenin was a mushroom, people would believe it. So yeah, when this came out, people took it at face value and believed it. Of course, this was fake, but people didn't know that. And I'm not saying everyone in Soviet Russia believed this to be true, but a lot of people did. The Microsoft acquisition hoax was a bogus 1994 press release suggesting that Microsoft had acquired and this is going to sound far-fetched, but bear with me, the Roman Catholic Church. This is a tasty one. This is considered to be the very first internet hoax that reached a mass audience, so that is something quite interesting in and of itself. The press release claimed that Microsoft, and I will quote this, will acquire the Roman Catholic Church in exchange for an unspecified number of shares of Microsoft common stock, and that the company expects a lot of growth in the religious market in the next 5 to 10 years. Many of the press release's claims were unrealistic in fairness, such as the idea that Catholics would soon be able to take a Holy Communion through their computers, and that conversion to Catholicism was considered an upgrade. Despite how ridiculous these claims were, gullible people are gullible, and some people actually believe them to be true. And on the 16th of December, Microsoft had to officially come out and say that they would not be acquiring the Catholic Church, which is quite funny to me at least. Another one I've spoken about before, the 2016 clown sightings. Apparently this I saw on one of my videos. Someone said that it was some sort of guerrilla marketing for the It movies, which is possible, I don't really know. But Halloween 2016 was fun. The only thing is that a couple weeks before that, killer clowns started coming out everywhere, and people thought that these things were actually going to stand in the middle of the road, and then if you're driving, they would kind of rob you. And it was preying on people that were afraid of clowns, saying that they would just go and randomly beat up civilians. This was not true, apparently. This did lead to clown hunting, and I don't know if any of them are real. All the ones on YouTube seem really fake, where people would see a clown and then start beating it up. Either the vast majority or all of them were, in the end, faked. So this next one is actually quite dark. Cursed, I would say. And hello, this is a new day, hence the new jumper. So we have Bonsai Kitten up next. So at the turn of the millennium, in the year 2000, there was this rumor spread online that you could put a kitten in a jar, and just like a bonsai tree, it will continue to grow. Its bones would mold to the shape of the jar. Take away the fact that this would be severe animal cruelty. Kittens are not bonsai trees. They don't have moldable bones like bonsai trees might be able to kind of weave and stuff depending on where the light source is. It's physically impossible, and this was deemed so controversial actually that the website that this was on was eventually shut down. I swear that every video I make there's some sort of meat controversy, and this one is no different. So this one comes from Zhu Yu, and this hoax is that he ate a baby for better health. So despite the fact that I believe eating babies is illegal everywhere in the world, Zhu Yu was a Chinese performance artist. The things that he did are not real, and he's actually got a really interesting website. He likes to play around with theories of nature and God and technology. So while if you look up pictures of this, it might appear as though he's eating a stillborn child, I assure you that he's not. This is just a performance piece. I mean, it is disturbed. It's a disturbing piece of art, but nonetheless, he hasn't actually done anything wrong here. I don't know who thought this was real, but this one's quite funny. So a couple years back, some people thought that on January 4th, it would be a day called No Gravity Day, just like maybe you might have Opposite Day or something like that. People thought that January 4th would be No Gravity Day. And see, the problem with this, though, is that it's not like Opposite Day where you just speak in opposites. There would have to be something causing gravity to weaken, I guess, and cause you to float up. So people thought that this was because Pluto would pass directly behind Jupiter, and this would somehow change our gravitational pull so that everything would be a lot lighter and people would start floating around. This would be chaos. Houses would be, you know, thrown up into the skies, and livestock too. Everything on Earth would be weightless. I don't know what you would grab onto, maybe trees and stuff, and just hope you don't float away. This is fake. It never happened, and I don't really think I have too much more to say. I can't dignify this one with too much of an analysis. Mary Toft gave birth to rabbits. Yeah, no she didn't. This one dates back to the 1700s, and this Surrey-born woman said that she had given birth to rabbits. She became quite famous for this hoax. However, people started to prod and ask questions, and due to the mounting pressure, she had to declare that she was in fact lying. Now the problem with this is that some medical professionals, I guess, were really into this hoax and said, yes, she has given birth to rabbits, I can prove it. And when she came out and said that she hadn't, this ruined their reputations, this ruined their careers, and it landed her squarely in jail. Eventually, however, she was released. This one might be the funniest on the entire list. This one really is hilarious to me. So in April 2009, Qualcomm unveiled a plan to expand wireless coverage by implanting tiny base stations into wolf pigeon hybrids. These wolf pigeons would fly around and would also be self-defensible, forming packs when they needed to. Other times they would go out as lone wolves, and if there was any around there, you wouldn't get as much coverage, but you still might get a little bit. And, you know, when they're all together, you would get a very strong coverage, the wolf pack, as it were. However, it soon came out that these wolf pigeons began to overpopulate, so Qualcomm had to do the smart thing, and they sent out a bunch of shark-falcon hybrids to hunt down these wolf pigeons. This would therefore create a method of population control. However, the problem with this is that the shark-falcons then began to overpopulate, and so these had to be hunted down. For this reason, the Qualcomm scientists made the crocodile, crocodile and eagle, and these were 4 times the size of the shark falcon, so these were sent in to hunt down the shark falcon. This is obviously a joke, but it just kept on running and kept on spinning, which I just thought was really funny. If anyone believed it at the start, just imagine when they got to the crocodile and it was like 4 times bigger than the shark falcon, and then that's even meant to be hunting down the wolf pigeon, which in and of itself is a terrifying concept. I think this one is fantastic. Pope Joan. This one I've covered in a previous video, I believe it was Historical Mysteries. And so the hoax is that back in the day, there was a woman who was, I guess, in the clergy. She was part of the Catholic Church, and she had grown her way and risen the ranks to eventually become Pope. The only thing is that the priests and the other members of the clergy did not know that she was actually a woman. She disguised herself as a man, as the story goes. She potentially became the first female Pope, and then she accidentally, and I say accidentally here, she accidentally gave birth in front of all of the priests and all of the cardinals, and then she was either killed or assassinated because of it, or died shortly after. So this is a bizarre story, but if it's on this list, I assume it's a hoax. I mean, like in the Historical Mysteries, it was always a mystery, but I never gave a concrete answer whether it did or did not happen. Given birth in front of all the members of the clergy, hashtag woman moment, am I right, ladies? So yeah, I mean, maybe she did exist and this was the hoax that she was a man, or perhaps she never did exist and that's the entire story is just a hoax, the rumor. I can't really say for this one because, again, it is a mystery, so who really knows? Webb Miller was an American journalist best known for his reporting, as you would hope a journalist is. He was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize in 1922 and 1927, so a very successful guy. However, he also made a small contribution to the world of hoaxes, because in 1936 he made an account of a hoax that the media fell hook, line, and sinker for. It was the idea of the dissolving bathing suit. The idea is that you wear this bathing suit and then you go into water and then it dissolves off. He claimed that this new technology was brought to us by France, and so everyone was really wary of French bathing suit designers, I guess, for a little bit. And whilst we know that a dissolving bathing suit defeats its purpose, it is a good prank if you ever get the chance to pull it off. The only thing is, back in 1936, they didn't really have the technology to create a dissolving bathing suit like we might have today, but they didn't know that, and the media just ate it up, which I think is quite funny. We're getting quite deep now, so this is the Maggie Murphy hoax, and it's a very simple one at its essence. Basically, this guy hoaxed the entire USA to think that he had a massive potato. Everyone in the USA was like, I want that. I want that potato, I want its seeds. And this happened a long time ago, so food was a little bit more scarce. And so everyone just wanted the potato seeds for this giant potato. You could just plant that and then, you know, you've got potato for life. And he created it out of wood. So it seems like it is a potato, but unfortunately it is just planks of wood. So this one is a fake, it's a fraud, and W.L. Thorndike, the man who committed this hoax, later admitted that it was a hoax after the pressure gained too much for him. The photo gained too much traction and he had to go, all right, sure, like, you know, this is fake, whatever. And yeah, that's the story of the giant potato hoax. So the English Mercury is apparently the very first newspaper ever made. It was apparently an account of the English battle with the Spanish Armada in 1588, and this would predate any recognised newspaper by a few years. This would be fantastic if it existed when people thought it did. Unfortunately, this was written by the second Earl of Hardwicke, Philip York, in the 18th century as a literary game with some of his friends. And although this hoax was exposed in 1839, copies of the Mercury are still mistaken to be the very first newspaper ever created. Instead, it was a German newspaper that was the first. The Germans beat us by a good few years, so the English Mercury is not the first newspaper. NASA discovers a missing day. So this took place about 20-ish years ago now, and it is exactly what it sounds like. They thought that NASA had discovered another day. The calendar year is as long as it takes for the Earth to rotate the sun, right? So that would be 365.25 days, because it's not exactly 365. That's why we get the leap year. And it's so unprecise that we lose about 46 seconds each year. And so I guess a couple of years ago they were like, oh, we need to make up for those 46 seconds. Here we go. Like, put it in here. Despite that, I think everyone kind of knew this was false, but maybe it did trick a few. Maybe. Document 12-571-3570 is a hoax document originally posted to the newsgroup alt.sex on the 28th of November 1989. According to this document, astronauts aboard the mission STS-75 performed a variety of sex acts to determine which positions are best in zero gravity. The document goes on to report that of the 10 positions tested, 6 require the use of a belt and an inflatable tunnel, whilst 4 were contingent on hanging on. This, however, is fake. The real STS-75 mission occurred in 1996, so this would be 7 years on from when apparently this took place. That clearly indicates that the document is a hoax, but nonetheless, a lot of people were fooled by this document and they were doing some research into it. If I ever go to space, what's the best kind of position to do? But this is fake. This is just an urban legend. The 21 kid ran away from home. I've seen this all over the place, especially since it was the 9th to the 10th, 21 quite recently. He didn't. I do think that 21 is the dumbest fine ever. I hated it so much. I just don't understand what's funny about it, but maybe that's just me being a grumpy old fart. Yeah, I don't think it was that funny, and this was just a rumor. I don't even think it was a hoax. I think it was literally just a rumor. And I don't have much more to say on that front. The dinosaur hunting license, there's not really too much to talk about this one. Basically, a couple years ago, there was this rumor that you could get a dinosaur hunting license in Utah. So if you ever went to Utah, that would be the only place you could ever hunt dinosaur. Of course, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever because dinosaurs do not exist. They went extinct millions of years ago. So unless there is a Jurassic Park hiding somewhere in Utah, which there isn't, this would be fake. The Brazilian defecation program, I've also ran into this one before in a previous video. So the idea was that there was an episode of SpongeBob that came on and it would play a brown note or something. There was some sort of vibration or some sort of thing heard or thing seen that made everyone that was watching it in Brazil, it was broadcast on Brazilian TV, defecate themselves. In the previous video that I spoke about it, it was a rumor. I think it was on 4chan, someone posted the concept on 4chan, but based on the fact that it is in this list, I have to assume that this was a hoax. Someone on 4chan has been lying, who would have thought? 3 orangutans, 1 blender, another one I've covered before. So there is this audio clip of 3 orangutans, 1 blender that you can use, and people basically would use that and then react to the video. You would never see the video has never been seen online before, but basically it's just like this blender noise with some monkeys screaming in the background to accompany it, and this has never been like widely circulated. I know it doesn't exist because it is on this list, and also it has literally never been seen, so whilst people have reacted to it, no one has ever shared the evidence, and this would be something that would be shared online if it did exist. In the infamous words of Tom and Jerry, "Don't you believe it?" And then we have one more final hoax for today, and that is that Fox Akimbo will be donating £10 for every 1,000 subscribers he gets for Team C's. Link will be in the description if you want to donate yourself. This is false. This is not going to happen. Instead, he's going to be donating £10 for that, but also £5 for Movember. So for every 1,000 subscribers I get between now and the end of November, I will be donating an extra £5 to the Movember cause. I think it's a fantastic cause, and so is Team C's. So Movember and Team C's, that's what I'll be doing this month, and I really do hope you subscribe, even if it is just until the end of the year. So if you want to bankrupt me, subscribe, because between now and the end of November, I will be donating to Movember for every 1,000 subscribers I get, and £10 to Team C's for every 1,000 subscribers I get until the end of the year. So even if you can't donate to these causes yourself, do subscribe, because I will be putting some money in. It's a great cause. Please do hit that sub button. Whilst you're at it, you might as well join my Discord, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all of them, and you might even want to pop by my Patreon. I would love to have you there, and it would be a good bit of fun. Thank you to my patrons right now, they're on the screen, and thank you to Silent Chatterbox 52 for creating this iceberg. Finally, please let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me do next, because I'm only 81 videos in, and I'm already out of ideas. Thank you for watching.